Here we go. First question I ask, what do they need to know? That's not original, you've heard that. What do they need to know? That's information. What do they need to know? That's information. This is the one thing. And I'm a huge proponent of teaching and preaching one-point messages, not multi-point messages. If you preach a multi-point message, they're only going to remember your last point anyway. And you've heard multi-point messages and you thought like I've thought, boy, that would have been a great series. Guy wasted like 6 weeks of material on one sermon. Sorry to see you do that, because I'm going to make it stretch out to 6. So the question is, what is it they need to know? And this is the simple idea. And I would argue you're not finished with your lesson. You're not finished with sermon preparation until you can answer this question succinctly. What is the one thing they need to know? This is the thing that plagues me as a communicator. Because I can have 3 or 4 pages of outline and still, as I say to Sandra, I don't know the one thing. I've got 20 things. I think I'll be able to keep people awake. I think they'll come back next week. But I don't have the one thing. The one thing that I say, look, if you don't remember anything else, don't forget, this is the thing. You got to have that. And I don't think you're finished till you have it. And you know what? My dad calls it the burden. In fact, I think that's the second point in your notes. Yeah, number 2. This is the burden you have to unload. I love that word. We were talking about this one day over breakfast. And we're talking about, when you get up to preach, he says it's the burden. He says, it's the thing that you're carrying with you into the sanctuary and you're sitting there and you're thinking, if I don't unload this, I'm going to explode. I said, that's it. It's a burden. It's the one statement. It's the one principle. Everything else you're going to talk about is going to crescendo to the point where you say, there it is. And everything after that's going to point back to it. And you're going to feel like if you don't get this one thing, I'm going to die. You have to know the answer to that. And so you're like me. You've prepared sermons and you're sitting on the front row ready to preach. And it's just information. But you've also sat there like I have, and you've got that one thing, and you're thinking, I cannot wait to communicate this. Because the man or woman or teenager or single adult or married couple that gets a hold of this has the potential to change their lives. This has the potential to cause them to rethink everything. What's the one thing? What is the one thing? I made a list. Don't write these down because these are mine. Just kidding. Here it is. And you know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about a sentence or a statement that basically summarizes everything. Your friends will determine the direction and quality of your life. That's one of our 7 checkpoints for students. We come back to that over and over and over. Your friends will determine the direction and quality of your life. Here's one. Purity paves the way to intimacy. Purity paves the way to intimacy. You want to experience intimacy in marriage? Purity paves the way to intimacy. When you see as God sees, you'll do as God says. When you see as God sees, if you can see any situation in life the way God sees it, then what He's asked you to do about it would make perfect sense. When you can see as God sees, you'll do as God says. Submission is an invitation for someone to lead. Submission is an invitation for someone to lead. Do you know why wives should submit to their husbands? It's the way a wife invites her husband to lead the home. That's powerful. Choose the hard right over the easy wrong. That was the statement our communicator this past Sunday made to our congregation. Choose the hard right over the easy wrong. Isn't that great? Everybody lives forever somewhere. Everybody lives forever somewhere. Acceptance fuels influence. You want to influence somebody? You have to become a master of acceptance. Acceptance fuels influence. Good people don't go to heaven. Forgiven people do. Whew, see, I love to preach that one. Good people don't go to heaven. Forgiven people do. You can't unone what God has made one. I don't recommend you preach that one. I only preached it once. You can't unone what God has made one. My dad taught me this one. God takes full responsibility of the life fully devoted to Him. God takes full responsibility for the life fully devoted to Him. And then my favorite, it takes one to know one. That was just a joke. That's not really a point in the sermon. Okay. But you see my point? See? It's like, oh, that's great. Did you make that up? I've heard that before somewhere. The point is this. Listen. When you're preparing a message, I know you got commentaries and stuffs everywhere. You got worship music playing in the background. That's whatever you got to do, When it's all done, what's the thing? What's the thing? What's the statement? What's the sentence? It doesn't have to be cute, doesn't have to be rhyme, but what's the thing you're thinking, they got to know this. I'm telling you, when you get there, You'll explode. I don't care what your personality is like. People, they'll know. What did he talk about? Blah, 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 I heard it. I wrote it down. When he got to that point in the message, I knew where he or she was going. I got it. See, if you don't know the one thing, you're not ready. You got to know the one thing. See, this is what makes one-point preaching so powerful, is when you get the one thing, then you build everything to it, and then after you go past it, you look back at it.